Kia ora, everyone. My name is Georgina. Welcome to the ACE RMO 2024 Whanganui webinar. We're going to kick off with an opening karakia, and then I'll give everyone a brief outline of today's webinar. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi a ke ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. So thank you everybody for taking the time to join us today's webinar. We'll move on to the panelists' introductions very shortly. We will have a presentation presented by our panelists, and then our PGY1 representative will tell you a bit more about their experience working at Whanganui Hospital as a PGY1. Towards the end of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A session where you can ask some burning questions. You can do it now. You can pop it in the chat box if you like, but we will only look at these and answer them towards the end of the webinar.
Good evening, my name is Ken Wilkins. I'm the recruitment consultant for the RMO unit, so I'll be taking care of you if you get here.
Good everyone, my name is Pete and I'm a PGY2 working here at Whanganui Hospital.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nathan Gadgil. I'm the ADC and pre-vocational education supervisor.
And kia ora, I'm Louise Tor. I'm the manager of the medical management unit. Looking forward to you joining us here next year.
Cool, welcome everybody. I'll now share the presentation.
So Whanganui's River City. So we are on the North Island, West Coast, Black Sand Beach. Plenty of things to do.
So we are based in and around the river. The river flows through our city and it's a very major part of what happens in and around Whanganui. It comes down from Mount Ruapehu, which is probably about an hour's drive. We're a couple of hours from Wellington and easy access to Auckland through Air Chathams, who have a number of flights a day.
So we have a community of about 50,000 people and a broader area of about 75 to 100,000, I think it is. We've got stunning natural beauty and hiking, skiing, surfing. You can all do it in Whanganui.
Whanganui was one of the first places settled in the North Island. So for a smaller town, we have a rich cultural history, including some really nice facilities, including an athletic stadium. For sporting activities, you can find someone who's doing what you want to do in almost all things. And it is a great place based on its size to make friends and have some fun doing that. One of the attractions is that it's not terribly far from work to home and back again, so you don't waste a lot of time commuting.
So that gives you a good work-life balance.
Yeah.
So commuting is just 10 minutes or 10-15 minutes from the home and with affordable property prices.
This is just a picture of our main street and some of the historical buildings around Whanganui, and some pictures of being up the river. So there's lots of outdoor activities. Mount Ruapehu is not terribly far away. There are a couple of ski fields up there. The Turoa is on our side of the mountain and probably about an hour away. Our region actually extends up to Whanganui. So some of the patients that you will see here will come down directly from the mountain. Being a small rural place, there will be no separation of cases. So in your second year, you would have the opportunity to work in our emergency department, and you will get the experience of seeing diverse cases as they come in through our emergency department. That's a bit more people on the mountain. So if skiing is your thing, it's a bit more of the work-life balance, especially with winter at the moment. Hopefully it's going to be a good ski season this year. That's some of the lovely scenery up the river road. Cycling's a big thing. The Tongariro crossing. We've now moved on to scenes of our market. So there's a thriving local market here on a Saturday morning. All the strong community feel that you would find in a small place and the ability to make connections. We have also got a great art and cultural centre with lots of people in the city, budding artists. There are some pictures of our awa, or our river. It is a very special part of our Māori culture in this town. And there's also rowing for those of you who are interested in rowing. There's also a kayak club, multi-sports events. We have some lovely pathways around the river, triathlons, marathons, you name it, it's a big part of what makes Whanganui. We are also very close to the coast. For a place that was settled early, the choice was to locate the main city on the river, but the river is very close to the beach, and we've got lovely wild west coast beaches. There are a number of our staff who enjoy skiing, surfing, and will, in extreme cases, go surfing before attending work in the summer months. One of the other things is being in a smaller place, the cost of living is a little bit better than in the big centres, and we have connections in the community to try and find you something that's suitable for your time with us. Do you want to say anything about that, Pete?
The hospital.
Yeah, how you found the cost of living here?
Yeah, so certainly cheaper than living in Wellington. I think at the minute you pay about $280 a week for rent in a small room in Wellington, but 200 to 250 for quite a large room in a large house, and then take away not having to pay for your lunch.
Yeah.
With the house officer contract, it's pretty good as well. But yeah, and generally speaking, it's cheaper. Petrol is cheaper as well compared to Wellington.
So some of the things that we can offer you is being in a small place. The advantage of being in a small place is people get to know you. We have consultants like most bigger places, but what you will find in Whanganui is that there isn't a big tier of registrars between you and your consultants. What that means for you is practically there are more opportunities to do some procedures, to link in with your consultants and express interests in doing things, getting your practice up. We have got an education suite here where our nurse educators are really good at giving you an opportunity to practice cannulation. Some of those things in a safe environment, safe and supported environment before you get going on the patients, which of course you will get better as you do over time. Do you want to add anything to that, Pete? How have you found it?
Yeah, so the education suite's pretty good, and we run a number of simulations throughout the year. Obviously, we do our basic courses, but on weekly education sessions, we'll sometimes do an emergency case or emergency simulation. Yeah. In terms of procedural skills, yeah, absolutely. You're not forced to do anything that's sort of out of your depth. But if you're feeling confident, if you've seen a number of procedures done, or if you've assisted in them being done, so an example would be like a central line or an arterial line, people are often comfortable for you to be doing that with supervision, and they'll ease you into things. So once you've seen a few, you've assisted with a few, you know all the theory behind it, then they'll start to teach you these things. So it's something really, really good that you wouldn't get in any other hospital in New Zealand as a PGY1, PGY2.
So during your PGY 1 year, you would do runs in medical, surgical, assessment, treatment and rehabilitation, orthopedics and possibly psychiatry. In your PGY 2 year, we offer CBA, so everyone is expected to do a CBA or community-based attachment. We try and get you all through ED, and the benefit of ED is you're actually working up a patient from the word go yourself with consultants around to support you doing that, which is a different experience than following somebody else's plan. And then there's options around pediatrics, obstetrics, gynecology. We have an anesthetics run here, which is really, really popular. Am I missing anything?
Orthopedics.
Yeah, we said orthopedics. So there are various options in your first and second years. Often our PGY2s will elect to stay here as registrars. So we have registrars in general surgery, orthopedics, psychiatry. So psychiatry is a training registrar. We have training registrar in obstetrics and gynecology, and training registrars in general surgery and orthopedics
Anesthetics as well.
and anesthetics.
Yeah, anesthetics.
And we are trying to grow that registrar tier. But at the moment, it's a nice small place. We've got about 55 to 60 RMOs and slightly fewer SMOs. So it is a good balance and you get to know everyone across the campus really quickly.
There's non-training registrar roles in general medicine and ED as well.
Yes.
And during the PGY too, if you want to do any extra ones, any particular, we try and accommodate you if possible.
Yes.
Or any,
Yeah.
if you're interested in any other special runs.
Yeah. And we've got a friendly group of educational supervisors, clinical supervisors, and Dr. Gadgill here is our Director of Training. So he would work closely with you as you progress through your 2 internship years.
We also have tutorials twice a week. Some very good specialist doctors come in and teach you different topics. So it adds value to your training.
Thank you so much. That was very, very detailed. So are you able to tell me a little bit more about what a typical day would be as a PGY1? I think Pete, you can probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a typical day as a PGY1
That.
on the medical ward starts at 8 o'clock or 5 to 8, 10 to 8. Good. There'll be a handover in the consultant's room. And what they do is they discuss all of the admissions from the night before, and if there's any critically unwell patients, and they also divvy up the patients. But it's not unlike other general medical consultant meetings in the morning. After that, you split off with consultants. So there's usually 1, but occasionally 2 RMOs for each consultant. And you go away and do your ward rounds, starting off with the patients in our critical care unit. So it's like a high dependency unit. We don't have an ICU. What that means is if you have a patient that is quite unwell, the consultant, yourself, and a large and experienced nursing team will look after them in the CCU. And we can look after patients that are intubated and ventilated for up to 24 hours. And we can manage patients that are on up to 2 inotropic agents for up to 24 hours before we look at transferring them to places like Palmerston North or Wellington ICU. So that's a really good experience in terms of learning how, through the experience of your consultant and the nurses, how to manage unwell patients. After that, you then go off to the wards, and it's much like other ward rounds, except there's not an entourage of medical students and house officers, non-training registrars, fellows, and a bunch of other consultants or visiting locums. It's mostly you and your consultant and perhaps one other RMO. So it's a lot more intimate in terms of, you are really invested in your patients. You get to know them all really well. The consultant obviously leads the ward round, but your contribution and thoughts with regards to the patient management are always really valued. And the reason for that is because the consultant needs to know that you know what the plans are with these patients, and so that what the plans are for them getting better, and then what to do perhaps if they start to get any worse. If there's any immediate steps you need to make before calling the consultant and letting them know what's happened. That will typically go until about lunchtime, obviously depending on the case load. If you've got more or less patients, it can be before that. Or sometimes you'll have a quick lunch break and you'll finish off the last few patients. But typically, you'll finish just before lunchtime. You'll collect your thoughts, go through all of the patients that you have, and assess what are the more urgent jobs required for them. So are there any surgical consults required for them? Do we need to book any urgent investigations, such as CT scans? And have your lunch break. When you go to lunch, there's a nice big long table, which has been a thing in Whanganui for
Decades.
a long time. Long time, which is really cool because all of the RMOs are always on this long table, and so it's a nice way to chat about how your day's going. And you'll see, Bruce is having a good day, Tom's not so much having a good day, so everyone's very collegial in terms of helping to uplift each other, but also just have a bit of a laugh as well. It's quite nice.
Also, there's no segregation between PGY 1s and PGY 2s or regs. Everyone's welcome and everyone shares.
Absolutely. There's no cool kids corner. It's just one long table. We're all in it together. So you do have your lunch break, gather your thoughts onto who your patients are and what's wrong with them and what needs to be done for them. And then you'll go away and start with those jobs. Often there'll be discharges in the afternoon. People want to get home before tea time. So you'll be working on those. When you finish your jobs, an ideal world, let's say it's about 3 p.m. You'll then start wrapping things up and preparing things for the following day. So that's things like ordering your bloods for the following morning. Is there any scans that need to be arranged for the following morning? You'll call ahead for that. And then preparing any discharges, particularly if you think someone might be transferred to another hospital in the middle of the night, or if you know they're going to be going first thing in the morning, it would behoove you to prep those discharges in that afternoon whilst you have the chance. And that's pretty much it. You do your handover at 4 p.m. So you'll hand over to the long day doctor who the critically unwell patients are, if there's any patients that are palliative, and if there's any urgent things that you need to chase that perhaps you hadn't gone to. So that's what a typical day is as a general medicine RMO.
Excellent, thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Who should we be addressing our cover letter to for a position in Whanganui?
If you address your cover letter to Kent, so Kent is our recruitment coordinator, he is here on the end.
Yes.
And that would be great. What we would really like to hear from you in your cover letter is why you think you would be a fit for Whanganui.
Cool, thank you. A common question that we do often get is, do they need to have special connections to the district? Like, do they have to have family there, or
no,
they've
no,
lived
you don't need to have special
there
connections.
before?
But what we are really keen is that you know that we are a small place and that you are happy to be part of a small place. That would certainly stand you in good stead. We are not a big Wellington hospital. So, if that's what you think you're going to come to, you're not going to be happy here. There are advantages of big places and small places, and we want to know that you're coming to a small place and that you are keen to come to a small place.
Great, thank you. Are there any interviews? And if there are, how does the process work?
We do not interview PGY1s for the first year, so it's not a thing we have done over the last couple of years. So
often there are lots of applications, but what we are really keen to do is go through your cover letters at a level of detail, and then what we do is we rank the candidates on the information that's provided by your universities.
Perfect, thank you. What are the food options like at the hospital?
I can speak on that. Well experienced with the food at the hospital. So I think everything's certainly catered for, like in terms of different dietary requirements. It does vary a little bit. So I think we have pizza, we have burgers, we have curries, we have noodles, we have salads, we have sandwiches, we have paninis, we have bacon egg muffins, we have tuna, we've got yogurt. Basically, there's everything that you want. And so for me personally, like as you can tell, I really love food. I love to eat lots of food. But depending on how I'm feeling, like if I'm feeling like I want to have less carbohydrates and I want to have more of the protein, I'll take 3 packets of tuna, for example. Or I'll have my, yogurt or chickpeas or that sort of thing. So the short answer is everything's catered for. You guys have gone all the way through medical school, so you've seen a few medical cafeterias. I think it's, you know, it's definitely on par with everywhere else.
Excellent. That sounds like a good variety. Will I be disadvantaged if I have two references from the same placement?
I don't think so, no, as long as they're two different doctors, of course, but yeah, as long as your references are good.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Do you allow a 2:45 start?
Yeah, so I was 2:45 start, which was really awesome because yeah, there are lots of places in New Zealand that don't offer late starts. So I was very grateful that Whanganui was happy to take me on. And yeah, so if you are a late start for whatever reason, for me it was work reasons. But yeah, absolutely no dramas. They were quite happy for me to. I did my orientation just before the quarter started, I believe. No, actually, I did it as the quarter started. So it wasn't a problem. They slotted me right in. I was obviously a bit nervous because all of my buddies from medical school had 3 months under their belt. But at this point in time, you know, a year later, there's no difference really. So it was absolutely fine.
Being a small place, we are also quite geared up to
Good to-
orientating people as they start. So that's not an issue, don't
No,
worry
thank you.
if you won't get a full orientation.
Cool. I think that kind of answered our next question, which was, is there any orientation process prior to starting? So the answer is yes.
Ideally, we do the orientation a week before the official start date. Our orientation starts with a POFRI and 2 days of cultural orientation, which includes a trip in a waka on the awa, and connecting with the local stories of Whanganui and how we all connect as a big whānau in this rohe. Then the orientation moves into IT training and all the other bits and pieces that you need to know. It is quite a busy week. But during that week, the main thing is you're making connections with those who you might need to ask if you need advice later on, and connecting in with your new found friends, being your fellow colleagues, your new colleagues, and people from other disciplines.
That sounds good. Thank you. And lastly, how many positions are available on average?
Usually it's 7 or 8. We're hoping for a bit more next year. So I'm not sure how many we will get through the process. I don't believe the numbers have been confirmed yet, but it'll probably be 7 or 8.
Cool, perfect. All right, so that was the last question. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact me or Whanganui directly. I'm sure that Kent and Louise will be happy to help. I will now close off with a closing karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, hoie taikie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all our panelists.